Hi, welcome to White Hat versus Black Hat SEO show. My name is Josh Bachynski. With me, as always, I have my co-host, Chase Reiner. Say hello, Chase.
Hello, Chase.
Hello. Chase is a Terminator. He lives in California. He wears sunglasses. He's here to find Sarah Connor. Well, and now he's talking. He's talking to us. I said something nasty about him, and he gave me a black eye. He punched me in the eye. He reached right through the screen with his big metal fist and punched me right in the eye. No comment, Chase? You're not going to talk about your dirty deed?
I admit to nothing.
He admits to nothing. All right. And also with us today, we're very lucky today. We have with us Clint Butler, our resident Black Hat. Say hi, Clint.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me again.
It's our pleasure, Clint. It's great to have you as always. And if you have any doubt as to whether Clint is our resident Black Hat, he is literally wearing a black hat. So therefore, he must be our Black Hat.
Literally.
And also today, we're very lucky to have our guest, Kyle. What's your last name, Kyle?
Roof.
Kyle Roof. There we go. I don't even know Kyle's last name. I'm on a first name basis with Kyle. Me and him are tight. Kyle Roof is here from Search Intelligence Agency, and he's going to be showing us a whole bunch of SEO experiments. Search Intelligence Agency. We've had him on the show before, and for those of you who didn't see that show, I'm going to give you a quick recap. Search Intelligence Agency is a group of SEO professionals who are not satisfied with the rumors and the hearsay and the so-called post-truth telling of Google. And so they've decided that they're going to do experimental scientific tests, what are called single variable tests, where only one variable is changed and the test environment is completely controlled, to see what SEO ranking factors are indeed an SEO ranking factor. And so a little bit later in the show, Kyle's going to talk to us a little bit about his SEO experiments. And then we might even have a special little gift for our viewers of people who might want to join such a crazy group of SEO scientists who know all these crazy secrets about what is truly a ranking factor and what truly is not. Did I get it about right there, Kyle, or did I get it wrong?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, what we try to do is we try to, as you said, get things down to a single variable. And so to do that, we create controlled environments.
Such a crazy group of SEO scientists who know all these crazy secrets about the ranking factor and what truly is not.
Is that feedback?
Yeah, no, that's the ghosts inside your head. The virus, and you're hearing me forever.
All of a sudden, I thought I was going insane.
More insane, more insane.
I was like, I think I'm reliving this moment.
That's a weird deja vu. Yes. Search Intelligence Agency, they do a bunch of tests, and so we're going to talk to Kyle a little bit later on. But right now, let's get to what's new in White Hat SEO. Very recently in White Hat SEO, Google I/O is going on right now. It's a Google conference where Google tells about all their new technology. And so nothing has come out of that yet. That's interesting, but we'll be talking about that in a little bit. I have 3 John Mueller hangouts. He recently did a hangout in actually in Mountain View, California, where he had a bunch of other top contributors, they're called, who are essentially, they're not Google employees officially, but they get invited to the Google offices on a regular basis, and they man the Google Webmaster Central Forums. And so they were on this hangout, and so I haven't had a chance to watch those yet, but I am going to watch all of them and digest it for you, and I'll have all those leaks for you, my kind viewers, in the next White Hat versus Black Hat. They did talk a little bit about the mobile first index. It is still supposedly coming out, but they don't know if it's coming out this year or next year, so we'll just have to watch for that. Clint, do you have anything new that's going on in Black Hat SEO, or is it still kind of business as usual?
Business as usual, really. Just, testing new things and trying to find, actually doing a lot of testing with Mike Pence's theory on trust, traffic, and theme, and seeing how we can Black Hat manipulate that stuff. That's what we're doing right now.
Wait a second. When did Josh take off his sunglasses?
What? I would, as soon as you put sunglasses on, because I was going to mock you, but it's no fun. Well, I could do it. See, I could mock you by wearing the sunglasses. It covers up my black eye anyway, so. Now I am Chase Reiner. I drink from a jug or a bottle, as I am known to do so. Clint, you said something interesting there. First off, you said that you were testing Mike Pence's SEO philosophy of trust, topic, and theme. You mean Mike Pearce?
Pence, same person.
Yes, same guy. Mike Pence, the VP, the vice president of the U.S. He's a longtime SEO. Everybody in the industry knows this.
He's not here, so he doesn't get
Trump
any free
picked him
promotion.
to be the VP. Sorry, go ahead, Clint.
So he's not here, so he doesn't get any free promotion.
That's right. Didn't need any free promotion. So no, Mike Pierce is another black hat we have on all the time. He's a good guest to the show, and so fantastic. I'm glad to hear that you're testing his SEO philosophy for backlinks for the most part of trust, topic, and theme, being trust flow on the same topic. It's trust, traffic, and topic. So I'm a white hat. What the hell do I know? The one SEO thing that I came across, which is a little bit more black hat recently, someone leaked this to me. I don't know where they got it from, but apparently right now in Discus, the comment editor, I don't know if you know about this, Clint or Kyle, any of you guys can comment on it. Apparently you can get free links out of it if you don't put anything in the anchor tag. So if you do open anchor href equals your website close tag, and then don't put anything in there, so there's no link text, and then just close the anchor tag. Apparently, that when the editor goes to approve your comment in Discus, they don't see that nothing renders to the canvas because there's no hyperlink text to render because you put no text in it, and you get a free link that's contextual based on the text that's around it. Have you guys heard of this trick?
It's a little play on a trick. You can do the same thing in WordPress comments, especially if they have auto approve and they're not paying attention. You can do that too.
But the question is, will these comment links help you or hurt you? Kyle?
We use SIA to tell.
Now, actually, I can tell you, we did. We've done a lot with spam, a lot where we just spam the hell out of a page just to kind of see what would happen. The only thing that consistently hurt a test page was actually all comment spam. So if all the links were comments, like say 20,000 of them, it would actually harm the page. If you did a kind of a diverse portfolio of spam, then they would be fine. It would improve the rank in a test environment.
Interesting. So when you say a diverse portfolio of spam, you're talking about Web 2.0's comment spam, press releases,
GSA stuff.
Mix it
all in and you're fine.
SE nuke on steroids.
Right. But if you did it just all comments, we did, I think, 20,000 comments in one particular thing, that would consistently harm a page in a test environment. That's
too bad. So that's a great negative SEO tactic right there.
Possibly.
Terrible stuff. Okay. All right. So let's move right on. So since we started talking about it already, Kyle, if you wouldn't mind taking it away, let's give the floor over to Kyle, and Kyle can tell us some stuff, and I'll flash up that screen when you want, Kyle. And take it away. Tell us about Search Intelligence Agency and the kind of SEO experiments you guys have done.
Sure. Did you want to see a couple? I can show my screen.
Yes, please. I'm very sure our viewers would like to see as many as possible. Yes.
Sure. So, sorry, showing screen. Are you in the, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. And I'll even give you focus here.
Cool. So we played, one thing that I really like is looking at kind of the, I don't know, establishment of SEO, if you will. And one of those things that is definitely the establishment is the Yoast plugin. I think maybe a third of all websites are WordPress, and probably 90% of those have Yoast installed. So it's something that just everybody is familiar with. When you look at Yoast as a thing, I really think it's doing a wild disservice to people that really don't know anything about SEO. They see a green dot, they've green dotted themselves, and they think they have done something successful.
Hold on. Yoast calls it a green bullet.
Okay, they green bullet themselves, and
so they literally shoot themselves in the head. That's
about what I think they've done to their pages, because it's more just kind of ticking a box, like, oh, you have the word on the page, SEO. But the other part that they've got is this readability factor, where again they'll green bullet you on if your content is readable, and they use the Flesch-Kincaid score. What that is it looks at your content, and then it gives it a number, and then it gives it a corresponding readability level grade. So for example, if your content comes out at 7th grade, The idea is that somebody who has at least a 7th grade education will be able to easily read and understand your content. With Yoast doing that, putting that in there, it implies that that is a ranking factor, or something that would be very important, because obviously Yoast is an SEO plugin. So then the idea is, well, is that a ranking factor? So we ran this particular test where we created content that was significantly too difficult to read. It was like at a 26 grade level versus content that was at a 7th grade level, which is the general idea of that's where you need your content to be, if this is a ranking factor. And at the end of the day, and this is kind of what the test looked like. So we ran through, that's what the score is for the readability method. This is what it kind of scores down to. If you have this particular score, that's the school grade level. 7th grade is considered fairly easy to read. And then that's kind of what it looks like within the Yoast plugin itself. So you can see the red bullet in this particular example, that it's too difficult to read. And so what we do in these situations, again, so we create test environments. So this is a particular environment that we created. We're then going to tinker mainly with the third one down, with the idea that will give us then room to maneuver, so we can see if something moves up or down. Is generally how we do most of the tests. So again, kind of getting it down to that one variable in this situation where all the content is the same except for a particular piece of content that is going to be more or less difficult to read according to the readability scale. And we checked the score independently of Yoast, just to make sure that we were, it is what it says that it is. And at the end of the day, we found that it's not a ranking factor, where the readability score, or how readable a particular piece of content is not a ranking factor at all. Google is not reading your pages and seeing if a 7th grader could understand it and then giving you the advantage or not.
Right.
Why I think that's important is then you look at all the people that are wasting their time doing that, where they're trying to get these green bullets when you think about an economy of time and budget, there are other things you should be doing.
Can I ask a question though?
Of course.
I was under the impression that even though maybe the reading score is not an accurate measure, if there are misspellings or like mispronunciations of certain words on web pages, that actually does decrease the overall ranking impact.
That was the follow-up test to this, because in studying, I didn't know much about the readability score other than that it existed. It turns out that what they're doing is they're not actually looking at spelling and grammar or even word usage. They're taking the number of sentences that you have and dividing, the number of words divided by sentences, and then the number of syllables that you have. So the idea is that if you have shorter sentences and fewer syllables, that's actually easier to read, is really how the score works. So then the very next thing we did is we did spelling and grammar. And I can tell you spelling and grammar is also not a ranking factor.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you share those results with us? Do you have them handy?
I can.
If you can, great. If you can't, that's fine.
It would take a minute, but it's going to look basically just like this.
So then not to be critical, but my question then would be, how, if that's all just gibbery-gook, whatever you want to call it, made up words, how do you know Google did or did not like your misspelling of words that don't exist? I don't get how you did that test.
In this particular case, so we would launch the pages with the lorem ipsum so that they would then index, and then we added real content to them so that we could then manipulate the spelling and the grammar.
How do you know if they got re-indexed afterwards?
By the cache dates.
And you can check to see if the content changed, if it's the new content that you put up or not.
That's so weird, because if you ask a lot of like the really experienced SEOs, they will say that the misspellings do count into the ranking factors.
Sure.
Well, that's the beauty of it, because that's why we do tests, right?
That's the purpose of an SIA, is to get in there and take these individual things that we're all hearing as this is what's ranking, and getting rid of all the other factors and seeing if that one factor is really important. So if you're not doing that, then you're just following along being a sheep. Right.
So I talk about levels of evidence, right? The top level of evidence is actually doing experiments, or maybe having correlation software, or maybe you've been ranking for a long time and that's what you have been doing, and so you see no problems with it. And then what Google says, and then finally what industry professionals say. So this is the top level and this is the bottom level. So it's not that you're doing something wrong. If there's no experiments and you have no correlation software, all you can do is go off your experience and then what Google says and then what industry professionals are saying.
But let's agree on something. If the words are misspelled and there's a bad user experience because people aren't like thinking that you're a credible source because everything is being, totally obliterated in terms of the English grammar, wouldn't you say that that would be definitely a ranking signal if people were leaving because of that?
I would say yes, based on how I understand the algorithms work and the quality score works. But again, it's all about the levels of evidence, right? So that's my opinion based on experience, right? Somewhere, and what Google said, so somewhere in here, and I've read the patents, but it doesn't mean that it necessarily is. It's the single variable tests and to some extent the correlation software that gives you a much better idea whether it is or not. Now, does that mean I'm going to say everybody listening should not care about any spelling mistakes on their website? No, of course they can or should, right? But it becomes a business decision. If it's going to cost you $10,000 to fix all the spelling mistakes on your million-page website, but you could get better SEO benefit for doing something else works for sure, which costs less, then do that. But if you've got nothing else to do, then you need to fix your spelling mistakes. So it's kind of a judgment call between the levels of evidence you have and the amount of money it costs. Does that make sense? That's my philosophy of it.
That's exactly how I approach it as well. The idea is that if you had unlimited budget and unlimited time, for sure, do it. But when you have to start making decisions on where can I best spend my time and my money, or your client's money, if you're doing client-side work, that's then where you need to make these. That's where I think these tests become very valuable, because then you can start making those decisions. But the other thing is, nobody really has. I mean, I've yet to see the website that's an actual website for a company or a business that really has atrocious spelling or grammar. I mean, that just doesn't really exist.
Wait, what if you had like 5 different semantic variations of keywords in your headers, in your heading tags? So your H1, your H2, H3, H4, H5, say all of those had, say for instance, apples. And in the other web page, that's the exact replication of that page. The word apples is misspelled. Maybe it's missing a P. Which one do you think would rank better?
For what? Apples?
Yes.
Well, what you're talking about, though, is not necessarily a misspelling. You're talking about a variation on a keyword.
But wouldn't that be a misspelling?
Well, but it's a keyword. It's a keyword variation.
It's not exact match. I understand what you mean. I understand what you're saying. I think with the way RankBrain is working these days, it's the AI is trying to make an educated guess as to what this page is about.
But
and
I'm
all
saying
the keywords you put on it help it determine that. But ultimately, it's going to come down to what they serve you up for and what people click on. And that's the final link that makes them go, oh, yes, this is the site that's really about red apples. Even though they talk about pears and bananas and other stuff, really 70% of people search for this. They click on it and they stop searching. I'm going to cherry pick this and put this at spot 1. And I just saw a site today, in fact, that had URL parameters spam, and so it had like around 20,000 pages. But because all the navigation was served in URL parameters, when you did a site search for the site in Google, it had 21 results in total because Google was just the indexer. Google Caffeine, it didn't even hit the ranking algorithm. Google Caffeine was seeing all these thin pages with URL parameters and just flushed them all out of the index. But that being said, it doesn't mean that those pages weren't ranking and the rest of the site pages that Google said didn't exist in their index were still ranking, and they were cherry picking those pages for certain results because there's 10,000 impressions and their CTR was like 70%. And so they would cherry pick that result and would go above their even brand when people search their brand. So Google RankBrain will cherry pick the best result based on where people are clicking.
But I'm asking, like, in terms of the content on the page, were the actual heading tags changed, or was it just the content in the P tags?
This was paragraph content is what we were playing with.
So we don't actually know for sure whether or not these misspellings count, because I'm almost can guarantee that if you were to change this in the heading tags, that you would get a different result.
But what you're failing to understand is that you're changing the keyword. The reason that one page would outrank another in that situation is not because of the misspelling. It's because one has more keywords than the other. One has better.
Here's a way you could test it. Here's a way you could test it. Do your normal test. Well, hold on, guys. Kyle, do your normal test environment. But here, I'm going to put your screen up so everyone can see what I'm talking about. So do your normal test environment like you have right there. But after, can you click through? You don't have one of those pages handy, eh? But after, when you have your keyword there, put a terribly misspelled English sentence after it. Like, hey, dudes, I love this stuff. It's great. And just totally misspell it for all variations, and then have Google spider it, and then fix the spelling on one variation and see if it rises up.
Sure. Yeah, that's no problem.
That's one way you could single variable test it.
But that's based off what? A sentence? What about with the content that
It could
has
be in the
like
H1. I'm saying do
5,000
it in the H1. So in the H1, all of his pages have an H1 and a paragraph.
But we're
in
not
the same
talking
format.
about alt tags. We're not talking about
We're not talking
alt
about
italics, we're not
multi-point.
talking about anchor
We're
tags.
talking about multi-point variables. This is single-point variable testing, which is what I think a lot of people, when they hear about SIA, they miss. Where you're adding all this other stuff on that, yes, you're going to see in a real-life environment. Like, yes, if I spell like shit, then my user metrics are going to be low, which gives me less rankings. I get that. That's a multi-point variant. This is single-point variant testing. That's the point.
So you're
All
basically
is
saying
in your paragraphs is spelling. Does spelling matter in your content in your paragraphs? That's all it's testing.
right.
Yeah, no, those are good. Those are good points, Chase, and really good stuff that they could test. And this is why you need good SEOs in this group who are going to bring up, hey, what about testing this? What about testing that? What about testing this? So that's definitely something you should bring back to the SIA group. They have a Skype chat group. You could put that in.
I'm not
Or
saying that.
I could put it in there.
I'm not saying that this isn't true. I'm just saying with the low amount of data to claim that 100% that this is 100% accuracy, that Google doesn't take into consideration spelling. I just think that there's needs to be way more data around this before I can agree with that.
Well, of course. Chase, you're missing the point.
All right, shut up. I'm
No,
sorry.
it's a scientific test. It's one
All right.
test. It hasn't been repeated by anybody else. It's like one group fed a vitamin to a monkey, and suddenly the monkey grew a little ear out the side of its arm. You have to replicate that to be able to say this pill will grow ears on shoulders. It needs to be replicated many, many times. So I think, Kyle, if I could speak for you, Kyle and Clint, I think they would say, well, yes, of course, we're just scientists. We've run the test once, and so that's what we're basing this all off of. Take that with the amount of gravitas or the amount of non-gravitas that appropriately comes with.
True, but to what Chase is saying there, I actually run these tests multiple times. This particular one I've done 3 times.
Oh, well, even better than what I thought. You continuously surprise me, sir.
We just show the one because
let's show another test.
It's tedious.
Yeah, what's another test you guys have done?
Sure. Here's another one that I thought was kind of fun. So content freshness. It's the idea of, you add something to your page, you have now quote unquote fresh content, you'll get a ranking bump. It's the query demands freshness is the idea.
Yep.
What we found, so I ran 4 different tests. The variations on this were, and these were 4 separate tests, where test 1, we added text to the page, just to one particular page in a test environment, content was added, unoptimized content. In a second test, we swapped out a paragraph. So the exact same number of words stayed on, the paragraph was changed to new content. In a third test, we just added an image to a page. And in a fourth test, we optimized an existing image. What was interesting is that in the first test, the test page actually dropped to the bottom of the results. The reason is that it actually became less optimized because of more content. Which is a really important point to think about. Just adding content to your pages willy-nilly is probably not the best idea.
Right. You changed the keyword density.
Exactly right. And it dropped to the bottom, which was really hilarious to see. In the second one, swapping out the content didn't trigger anything for it. The same number of words stayed on the page. I don't know that it was actually seen as an actual change, and it didn't move. Test 3 and 4 with both the images, we did get movement. It popped up one spot in a test environment, stayed there for about 12 hours, and then came back down. So at best, the freshness was a very weak signal, and it's not a permanent signal. It wasn't anything that could move the test page and lock it in to that higher spot simply because it had freshness.
Precisely. And actually, Kyle, if I can interject, I just want to say all of these things we've talked about thus far, by the way, incidentally, just happen to be exactly what John Mueller has said verbatim would happen. He said, that if you have misspellings on your page, it's not a direct ranking factor, but it's not a good idea, meaning that we can say it's not a direct ranking factor because we've tested it 3 or 4 times. We can't drop a site because of it. But as Chase's point, it could very well be an indirect ranking factor from user dissatisfaction. And also, John Mueller has been asked about query deserves freshness, and he said if it is a ranking factor at all, it's going to be a temporary boost because it's something hip and new, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay there forever.
Kind of getting into the idea, then when you think about user metrics or user signals, a possible explanation here is that the freshness kind of started the dance. It created a shuffle where then the algorithm will move you up, but then when there wasn't a increase in click-through rate, then it would drop back down because, okay, it's fresh, let's see if people like it more. They don't, and then it'll go back down. So
right.
As an extended part of this test, what we're going to do is we're going to actually see if we can lock it in through user signals, getting clicks on that page and getting a better click-through rate.
Right. And again, that's another point I'd like to see is that any SEO who says they know for sure, like it's a law of math, what the SEO factors are, then they don't. Everything is a hypothesis. And so you notice that was a hypothesis. And you said, what do you do with hypothesis? You test them. So you're going to test it because you're a good SEO scientist, right?
Well, thank you. I think so.
I agree.
But yeah, so, and then we're testing right now just the publication date, just changing the publication date because that's a SEO trick, if you will,
right.
That, to fabricate, again, freshness. My prediction when it's all said and done is it's going to be exactly like this. I think we might get movement, but it's not going to lock it in. It's going to be a very, very weak signal at best. Almost not worth your time unless you're doing other things.
Okay, we got a couple of questions that I thought would be good to address right now. Gary Underhill asks, how much content do you need to add for it to be seen as new content?
Well, just the image itself, and actually just updating the image. So changing out like the image alt tag, adding to that was enough to trigger the slight bump. So very little, I think. And
Neil Cheeseman asks, what about changing the title or the H1 on the existing URL?
Yeah, I think that would count for sure, because that's also a more heavily weighted signal than image alt. Image alt's barely a signal. Your H1 is very strong.
All right, fantastic. Let's keep going. Let's see some more experiments, and then maybe we can get some more questions coming in. Hey guys, by the way, if you have a question for me, please put 3 asterisks in front of it just to make sure I see it, because with this black eye, I'm seeing all woozy, and I don't even know where I am or what's going on. So do me a favor and put 3 asterisks, and then I can make sure I can pick it out for you guys.
Those are actually the 2 that I was prepared to show, but I'm happy to field questions or if there's a particular topic of interest, or if you wanted to flash real quick, Josh, the
Sure.
whole scope, that mind map.
Sure. So just in case you're wondering if you want to join this group and if it's worth your money or worth your time, I'll just show you this is just some of the experiments they've done. And I'll show you at a very high level. Do you guys see that? Tell me when you see it.
Yeah, it popped in.
On this side are all the on-page experiments. This side is domain-level experiments. This is off-page experiments, and this is user metric style experiments. So as you can see, they've done a hell of a lot of experiments, and this is probably a few months old by now, and they've probably done a heck of a lot more since then.
I think we're now, like, what's published are 117 tests, and 7 more tests are coming out right now. So we're at like 124.
That's fantastic. And I've got a couple tests of my own coming up as well. We just encountered some interesting black hat software. I don't know if I should mention on the show what the name is, but some interesting software that was making some interesting claims. And so we welcomed him on to make his presentation. And as the good SEO scientist we are, we're going to test it and we're going to see if it really works or not, because that's what we do. We'll listen to anybody, any kind of pet theory they have, we'll listen to. But at the end of the day, you got to mark it against your 5 levels of evidence if you want to call yourself, especially testing and correlation, if you want to test whether or not it's a good thing to do.
I'm remembering you inspired a couple great tests, Josh. One test was about finding over-optimization by increasing density. And what's really cool about that is that running that test a few times, if you like math, over optimization hits at about 2 standard deviations from the mean. So
Yeah.
whatever the average density is, for example, keyword density, once you hit 2 standard deviations from the mean of the test environment, that's when your page will drop like a rock. You have hit you've hit the point of over optimization.
Which, ironically enough, I'm talking about levels of evidence. What Google says, Matt Cutts made a video a few years ago saying that's exactly what would happen. That's precisely the behavior, and that's exactly what I wanted to test, and we tested it, and it proves true. So when you're doing optimization, mean gets hard to calculate for some people, especially me, maybe with this concussion I have. But I like to think of averages. So if the average keyword density is 2%, you don't want to go as high as 6%. Maybe you want to be 3% keyword density, or even 4% at the outer maximum.
Yeah, when I take that kind of information, I apply it to my own work. I shoot for about 1.5 standard deviations above, because I think that's a nice sweet spot where you're not going to risk hitting that 2%, but you're probably getting a nice optimization boost compared to your competitors.
Right, and you should be able to see that when you make the change. It should go up or down. You should be able to track it.
Yeah, and on page work like that actually will kick in very quickly
as soon as they spider it. Yeah. Can you give us a math example? What 1.5 standard deviation over the mean would be?
Well, I guess maybe the easiest thing would be, if every page has 2%, if you were to go 2 times above that, so you're at 4%, you are over optimized.
There you go. Okay, so you want to go like if they have a keyword density of 0.2%, you'd want to go to 0.35%.
Right.
I see. Right. So again, it's not very much higher, and that could even be, this is new information that we're getting now from your extra experiments beyond the first one we did.
Right.
And so as I said before, like if they have a 3% keyword density, I just go to 4%. If they have a 2% keyword density, I go to 3%. I just go 1% higher, just to make sure you're in the same ballpark. And Chorus software will tell you this as well, Ted's correlation software, just to make sure you're in the same ballpark or just slightly above. And if you see yourself go down all of a sudden, you know you've gone too high. But the nice thing is you compare it back and Google will just pop you right back up.
Yeah, that is the nice thing about on-page issues. You can tweak it. It's not exactly turning a light switch on and off, but you can recover.
Another test that I inspired from you guys that I think you did was whether or not bookmarks or favorites in the browser is a ranking factor. And we found that it's not.
Yeah, that would have been a nice one.
Yeah, very easily manipulatable.
But also it makes sense. It makes sense from the idea of, what would be the ultimate way to show that somebody liked the content? They bookmark it so they can come back later.
Right.
That's the ultimate signal of usefulness.
Yeah, and Google can read all that stuff in Chrome. There's no reason why they can't write a little backdoor to read that. But as far as we could tell, we could not push the needle by adding bookmarks.
No, and we had real people do that one too, so that they were actually logged in with real Google accounts, real Gmail accounts, so it should be tracked using Chrome, and it didn't move it at all, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's too bad, but that's exactly how this group works. It's a hypothesis, right? Mm-hmm. And it's just like in science, there's no bad results. A positive result or a negative result is still a good result because it tells you whether it is a ranking factor or might be, or if it's not. It kind of gives you more evidence to weigh against when you're telling clients or you're deciding yourself what to do for your SEO.
Well, I'm sorry. I was gonna say, if you do a quick search too on that, like, are bookmarks a ranking factor or bookmarking page a ranking factor? You actually will find people that say it's a hidden, secret thing. You should be doing it. And that means people are spending time. They're actually going out and doing it. And that's kind of what I like about what we do, is because now somebody who might have actually thought about doing it or was doing it in the past realizes that's a complete waste of time.
Well, you know what else happens is if you put, and I think I might have said this before, but if you put people in a room with a button and there's like a random noise that'll happen with the button every time they hit it like 4 or 5 times. It just comes up random. And then 2 hours later, you'll interview these people. And they actually did a study of this. They'll all come up with different answers of why the button went off. And I think this is the same thing with the SEO industry is, somebody ends up ranking a site after like doing 100 bookmarks and they didn't realize that like 2 days earlier they changed their title tag or something.
That's exactly right.
And that's why it's so annoying, because it's like, you hear all of these crazy claims where these people are spending, all this money on building out these huge syndicated networks and all this crazy stuff, when it's like literally you can spend, all your time doing that or you can spend your time doing things that are going to be. That's why I'm I'm such an advocate of like white hat, because I just know in my own the things that I do, that a lot of the stuff that I do is like something that's going to last for a while, and it makes sense.
That's also what I think like the freshness test is. People optimize their pages and they think they're getting a freshness boost when really they just did better on page.
Yeah.
They added better optimized content to the page and they got that bump, but in their mind they're thinking, oh, it's freshness, so we need to add content to
or
the
when
page.
people, they just blog, they just put content out just so they can like update their website, and they end up getting all these pieces of content that aren't ranking, and they're just sending all these low value signals to Google. It's like, why are you doing this? You don't even know why you're doing content. You're just doing it because other people say you need to update your website.
Definitely. And that's why a group like this is fantastic, because they actually will separate the myth, or try to separate the myth from the facts, and you can actually spend your SEO dollars in a better way. Okay, we have a whole bunch of questions here.
Damn it,
Somebody
Josh,
asked, how did I get the black eye? I put the glasses on so you can't see the black eye because I'm embarrassed. I got the black eye because I went to a different martial arts class. I was a visitor, and the teacher chose me as the uke guy to demonstrate on. And because I'm better than him, he was jealous, and so he punched me in the eye just to show everyone how tough he was. So that's what happened. That's my story anyway. You can ask his story, and maybe that's a different story. Brad asks, what about meta tag stuffing on images? Could that cause a bump? You mean, I don't understand what you mean, Brad. Do you mean the alt attribute on images?
He's talking about all images, and probably maybe even title, and the title you can put in there with the little hover over.
Kyle, did you guys test the alt attribute and the title attribute on images?
With the freshness one, that was actually what we changed, was the alt tag, the image alt. So before it was nonsense, and then it turned into a keyword that was for the page.
By the way, can I
actually,
give a
no,
quick, sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry. I was gonna say, we didn't optimize it. It was just changing the content. So we didn't add optimization to the page. We just changed what was in the title tag.
Gibberish A to gibberish B.
In the alt, excuse me, not the title.
Yeah.
Have not played with the title.
A quick tip. I don't know if a lot of the people in this community know, but there's actually a difference between putting something in the title of the image and then the alt, and then of course the file URL. So most people, they just take the same thing that they put in their alt and they put in their title, right? The little hover over. So the alt is basically supposed to explain to people who can't see the image what that image is, right? So, somebody's blind, they go over and it reads it to what it is, right? The title is supposed to be what you would click through to if you clicked on that image and it had a clickable link on it. So that's why if you wanted to do like, okay, this is an image of an SEO event, you can actually make the title, go sign up now for the SEO event. And that would be the difference between the two.
Yeah. So this is an SEO wives' tale, and again, I have no evidence for it. And Kyle, if we can test this, it'd be great. John Mueller has said many times not to put keywords in the alt attribute and not to put keywords in the title attribute. Now, just so you know what I'm talking about, I'm going to share my screen so people know what I'm talking about, because they get confused. Let me just get a white screen going here. So when I say attribute, I mean, let me share my screen here. Sorry. 1 second. You guys let me know if you can see this. So image source equals whatever. We're talking about the alt attribute. This is an attribute in HTML.
I don't see
know
anything.
what we're talking about on the image. And we would put in here keyword 1, keyword 2, or whatever, right? And then we'd close it out. Also, in the anchor tag, you can have whatever, that's the source, and you can have title equals, and then we will put keywords in here, keywords. And then we would close that out, and this would be the link text, and then we would close that out. So just for people who don't understand HTML, and I used to teach it, so it drives me crazy, that's the alt attribute, that's the title attribute that we're talking about. Now, John Mueller has specifically said, this is what Yoast plugin has done for years. This is why I love you brought up Yoast plugin, because I have people who listened to me for years know I have a bone to pick with it, because they would do this automatically. John Mueller has said specifically not to do this. Have we ever tested this in SIA?
I've tested to see if it'll move the needle, and it will, but it's compared to other signals, it's remarkably weak.
What about on menu links? Because you can put the titles on the menu links, and I see some SEOs do this.
I haven't tested that.
Did it move it up or down?
It moved up.
So this is a great example of where John Mueller
But-
is saying not to do it because it pisses him off. And so I've been kind of hedging. I've been kind of, you know, guys, it's like the 20th thing to do on a list of 1 to 20. But I'm like, you probably shouldn't have your keywords in there. Just put all your keywords in the text so we could see them and we can manipulate it. But this is where, you know, I've been proved wrong. This is, the test shows it slightly goes up. It never went down. How many times have you run the test?
That's actually a test that I run every so often, because I'll test the main signals to see if something has instantly become stronger or weaker, or if things are relatively staying the same. So I run that test regularly.
Right, and things. That's another good, another beautiful point you bring up, is that things change all the time. So,
Yeah.
so I'll be the first one to say when I'm wrong or the evidence is the experiments is not proving out against. All I had was Google level of evidence, and maybe when we did a bunch of things, including that, things would get better. So I said, okay, it's probably good, but then we have actual tests, which is, you, as I'm hoping the viewers are getting now, are superior, proving all this wrong, and I can forget about it or just leave it alone for the most part, and bury it even further down on the list of SEO things to do, or not do it at all.
Yeah,
So we're
I'd put it low on the list.
Yeah.
so we're concluding that you should not waste your time putting titles in your links.
Nope, because I've used Quora, and Quora actually tests that. And if you run that software, you'll see that image alt tags is one of the correlating factors in using that software as a strong correlating factor of rankings for specific keywords. So
What I'm
it's not a cut and dry situation. You need to test for that keyword and see if they're following it for that keyword.
But I'm saying like the actual title attribute, not in an image, but in a link.
No, what I'm saying is that I thought it would be a good idea not to stuff keywords in there. Kyle is saying his test shows that stuffing keywords in there, things went slightly up. But I don't know if that's going to factor against your overall on-page keyword density. And so I still think it's a little dangerous to play with. I would just play with the on-page text, because you might forget about the title attribute keywords you stuffed in there. You might go over threshold.
I
As
agree.
general practice for us, what we do is one image on the page gets my exact match, and then everything else is LSI keywords.
So can I ask a question, Kyle? Is there, in terms of the keyword density, is there certain elements that are more important than others? For instance, like to include the keyword in the alt tag for the to increase the keyword density versus like the P tags versus the H tags?
Yeah, you can see what they'll move. So two different ways to test that sort of thing. One is to put it in like a 30-page environment, and then you change that one thing on the 30th page, and we see how much it'll move it up, how many spots it'll send it, and then we can determine what is stronger than something else. The other thing you can do too is you can put it in, say, like even a 5-page environment, and you can pit two factors against each other. You can put one in the 3 spot, one in the 4 spot, and then see if that 4 spot one would jump it.
Do you think that if people are looking for like images on something, that it would matter more if it was in the alt text? Like, do you think that the actual search matters also?
You mean like if it's an image-based search, that's an interesting thing, perhaps. But when it comes to like what are the strongest signals, the 4 that you really want to worry about are your meta title in the URL, your H1, and then have it in body content in P, in paragraph content.
What about the other heading tags? Do some matter more than others after the H1?
They actually go in order, 2, 3, 4. But what's interesting is that the 3 and the 4 are fast indexers. Those will index faster than a 2 or a 1. But once you then introduce the 2 or the 1, like if you were to introduce them at the same time, the 3 and the 4 will actually shoot up first and then move down
So
on the 1 and 2.
would it be worth it to make a plugin that automatically replaces your H3s and 4s right after it gets indexed?
Well, what I would do actually, so if I'm launching a new page, I make sure I've got 3s and 4s in there, because it'll actually index and bump up.
Wow.
You'll get faster results.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting. And that makes sense, because Google is they're a bunch of nerds who think that following the HTML standard, the HTML standard states that a properly marked up page should have a heading, a level 1 heading, a paragraph, a subheading, a paragraph. That's how they think logically you should delineate your information. So it doesn't surprise me that much that you would find that kind of result. Google thinks that's a higher quality page. It's got more robust logical information on it, if that makes sense.
For sure. What I see is that it really, you want to mirror a Roman numeral outline. So your Roman numeral 1 would be your H1 and your meta title. And then you've got, your 2s and 3s, or your A's and B's, excuse me, in that outline. Those are your H2s. And then your 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, those would be like your H3s and H4s.
Kyle, there's a guy behind you. He's coming to get you.
That's
You know this guy?
It's
Be
actually
safe, Kyle. Be safe. Turn around. Use your kung fu. No, sorry, I just got scared there for a second. Maybe I got punched recently. I don't know. I'm seeing things. So people have asked, how do I join this group? How do I test this software? It's a group that you join, and Kyle does the tests, and you can interact with them and discuss the results. It's called the Search Intelligence Agency. I have, for my viewers, I've put the link to join in the chat and in the description for the video. And if you use the coupon code Josh, that's right, me, Josh, you get, I don't know, some kind of crazy discount. Maybe dancing bears will come out of your screen or something. I don't know. They didn't tell me what the discount is. Just you get a discount. So use the coupon code Josh, get a discount for Search Intelligence Agency. It's fantastic.
Kyle, they really want to know about the XF data.
We played around with that, and it's a pain in the ass to do. I don't know if you've ever done it. Clint tells me I do it wrong every time, but we haven't really gotten any movement with it.
Mm.
Yeah, there's just if you're going to test it yourselves, it's pretty easy to do, but make sure you're not filling out the IPTC data and just using the EXIF data. And that's how you get that geolocation, which is what everyone's saying it's boosting for local.
Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, I heard the Google My Business locations now are actually stripping the XF data.
They do. They strip everything. There's sites like Flickr and all that stuff that we've seen are actually keeping it, which is giving you a boost because you're getting that backlink out of Flickr. So if you find sites like that, keep your EXIF data in your images when you upload there, you'll get some benefit out of it.
But do you think
that's from experience though, not from testing? Now putting it on my own sites, I've stripped it and I've kept it on my own sites, and it hasn't helped or hurt in either direction. So
the only time the XF data really matters then, Clint, you think, is not for the Google My Business or your own native website, but to actually do it for other third-party websites that maybe are still using it?
Correct. If you want to get really slick, you find put it on Flickr where it's keeping it, and then use iframes to embed it when you're doing link building on other sites.
Oh.
Ooh. Okay, we have some more questions to deal with here. So Charlie Harridge asks, does it matter if I use both schema markup and Google highlighting tool, or should I just be using schema? Could this hurt my rankings / confuse Google? No, I don't think that's what's going to happen. The Google highlighting tool essentially does the same thing as adding schema to your site. If you add the wrong schema to your site or have a schema error, yes, this could be a ranking problem. Cora shows schema as a ranking factor. John Mueller has said that having a schema wrong definitely is a thing not to do. And I don't know, have you guys ever tested schema in SIA?
You need to stop saying schema.
Schema? Just like you guys say Z when it's properly Z?
So we've seen bumps when it's a product page and you use product schema. That's as a very basic schema format. Haven't seen a bump like if you were to do other schema though, where you can tag an organization, for example.
Oh, anything. You can event. This is an article page. This is a blog page. The
one where we've seen movement is on product schema. But what's interesting is actually right now we are testing schema errors. So putting schema on a page that is just wrong, so that when you look at the testing tool, you're coming up with all these errors. We're putting that on to see if it's going to drop a page, if it's a negative factor. We're doing that actually as we speak.
Fantastic. Neil Cheeseman asks, are these tests available to view anywhere? They're available to view in the Search Intelligence Agency Club, which is a private club with private information that they do these tests for you, and that's what you're paying for. So find the link, use Josh as a coupon code, and join today if you want to get the results of all these tests and the continuing tests that Kyle and his company are doing, and his cohorts are doing. George Belletti asks, is it best to use a different domain for each test, or is it not important?
It depends on what I've done. If I've just done on-page stuff, I don't mind reusing domains. I have, I think, 20 some odd domains that I'm running right now. If I do link building to them, I burn them down after a test, usually.
Jamie Miller asks, if a link has been removed, how long will the link juice stay on site? That's an interesting question that Rand Fishkin tested maybe a year ago now. And he was talking about ghost links and how They send a bunch of link juice to the site. They delete the links, but the link juice seems to remain for months and months and months afterwards. Kyle, have you guys ever tested something like that?
Yeah, so I really liked what Rand did there, and we tested it, and it's about 5 to 6 months.
You guys confirmed Rand's findings.
Mm-hmm. That was a real fun one.
Works, guys. Another a totally unrelated, unknown scientific group did it, Rand Fishkin, and then this group confirmed it. That's kind of how science works.
You know, a lot of what we do is we use the whiteboard Fridays and disprove them.
Right. That was a question that was coming up. Is we hate Rand Fishkin. Do you ever disprove him? Yes. The answer is they do all the time.
We should make his
suggestions and test them and find sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they're right.
Kyle,
if I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel for an idea, I just go to a whiteboard Friday.
Fantastic. You can always. I'm even lower. If you want to scrape the even lower barrel, you can test all my old wive tale suggestions, as you have already tested a bunch. Someone whose name I can't pronounce says, "Can we interlink our microsites, niche sites of the same niche?" That sounds like a Black Hat question to me.
Yeah, I think that's a Clint question.
Yeah, you can, but I wouldn't recommend it, especially because eventually they're going to follow that path along. You're going to do something in one of those sites, and it's going to get the attention of all of them, and you're going to lose all of them at once.
Right. Even this white hat knows that. Marius asked, I don't know if this is a question, is the right on the topic, but he was wondering, does time spent on a website like 3 minutes indicate user value? Time on page, is it a ranking factor?
It's hard to test because you're either trying to send a bot, and so you can control the bot as much as possible, because you don't want people to click around. So you want them to click, stay. But then, like, what if you have them like scroll up and down? Is that another factor? So it's really muddy. Haven't been able to really narrow it down and say conclusively one way or another, because the tests constantly get muddied and invalidated as that one pure thing.
I agree. I don't think personally it's a ranking factor. On my 5 levels of evidence, I don't have any tests to go by. I don't have any correlations to go by. So what does Google say? Google say, no, it's not. No, that's not true. Google says conflicting things. John Mueller both says, check for quality and maybe time on page, and that tells you if it's a quality site. He says that. But then he also says, but no, 3 minutes is not a good time on page versus 30 seconds is not good on time on page. It depends what kind of page it is and how long does it take the user to fulfill their task. So I think it's just user signals, and they're not actually tracking time on page, but I'll wait for the test that actually proves or disproves that hypothesis. And until such time, I'll go based on the hearsay that I have, because that's the best level of evidence I got, until I get better levels of evidence. See, it works. There's a logic to it. It's almost like I was doing philosophy in school or something like that. Daniel Motes asks, what about synonymous terms in the place of target keywords? Do synonyms count towards keyword density?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to it in terms of a test that we've run. But I really like, with Quora, all the leading the matches, which are the words that Google is highlighting. That's definitely something to look into.
Yeah. I was RankBrain. So again, going on my 3rd level of my experience, what Google says and what I think, going on just that level of evidence, I think that it probably is. So if you had a page for weird Xmas gifts, a page that has that not that text anywhere on it, but says strange Christmas presents, can easily outrank it. So I'm probably thinking the synonym. And John Mueller was asked if the synonyms match 100%, and he says he believes at this point, yes, they do. So that's the amount of evidence I have to go off of that. I'd love to have an actual test. That's going to be another lovely test to do.
Yeah, can do.
You could do it the same way I suggested for the misspelling, right? You could have 5 sentences that have the same spelling, and then change one to have synonyms in it and see if it goes up or down.
Right. So what we do is on the 4, we would add a non-related word of the same length, and then we do a synonym on the 1 to see if the optimization would go up, because we know if you increase the optimization a little bit, you will continue to go up until you hit over optimized. So adding 1 or 2 wouldn't over optimize it, but it would move it up if it was counting as part of that term,
or down if it's not.
No.
Brad Averill asks, Jason Witt asks, how should we use Schema for local businesses if we have 2 locations in different cities?
You can do address. You can do multiple addresses within the organization. So the @type address you can put in too.
In Google My Business, yeah.
Or on your page, I mean.
Hold on,
your page as well.
I
Yeah.
got this one. So for the Google My Business, a lot of people, what they do is they'll create like multiple locations and then they'll like link their URLs to their homepage and then they'll put their local markup on their whole entire website. So what you want to do is you want to figure out what your main location is and if you're going to be targeting local with the homepage. If you're going to be targeting local with the homepage for a certain location, you'd put your main location schema markup on there. And you can just put local business. If you want to be more specific, you use something like Schema App, and you can actually build out, like if you're like a chiropractor, you can build out chiropractor schema. And then of course you'd have your main location linked to that. And then on the sub pages, you'd have a location page with all your NAP and all that stuff in there. And you would have the separate local business markup. It could also be a chiropractor markup, but it would be with the separate Google My Business address and all this stuff that you'd have that would be consistent. And you'd also have the Google My Business linking to that page. So that's how you do it.
Fantastic. And the final question for today is a very serious SEO question. Brad Averville asks, Chase, why do you have a Four Seasons hotel logo tattoo on your wrist?
So this is crazy. I wound up getting this stuff called Jaguar. While I went to Vegas, as you guys know, we went. Trevor, the guy who's in the chat, he actually went with me. Well, he met me there. And there they had this henna thing. So long story short, I went on Amazon, I bought a bunch of it, and I went on the beach the other day, and I was just like, yeah.
That's the answer. You millennials do weird stuff. Okay, that's perfectly fine by me. All right, so thank you very much for watching White Hat versus Black Hat. I would like to thank our guests, as always. Clint, thanks for being here. And Kyle, thank you very much for presenting your awesome SEO experiment data. I highly recommend that anybody and everybody who wants to be a good SEO, go to Search Intelligence Agency, join this group. The experiments really sharpen your knife when it comes to knowing exactly what is a factor or not. And use Josh, use my name, just remember me, ding, as a coupon code for some kind of discount. I'm not sure. I think it's 20% or something. I shouldn't even say that. I don't even know what it is. But I don't know.
I would say, but I don't even know myself.
I don't even know what the discount is. Dory just said, this is run by Dory Friend, and she just said, here, there'll be a discount attached to this. Just give them this. And I said, oh, because I wanted to I said, give me a discount for my viewers. She's like, okay, you're fine. So I don't even know what it is. I don't know what'll happen. Maybe Dory will come to your house and sing you a song or something. I'm not really
Probably
sure.
get charged extra.
Yeah.
I strongly doubt Dory will come to your house and sing you a song. But maybe at some point we can get Dory on this hangout, and then she can sing a song. That's what I think we should be doing right here. I also say, hello, secret camera. Okay, so that's White Hat versus Black Hat. Thank you very much. I will end the show with the random fact segment. So I already told you guys a random fact about myself today. I got a black eye. Chase has told us about a random fact where you got that tattoo. Clint and Kyle, do you have a random fact you can tell us about your lives today?
I can read and write Korean.
Ooh.
I train police dogs on the side.
Do you really?
Yep.
Wow. Do you use clicker training or?
No, it's attack aggression training, so that's most of my stuff is that.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, I like this segment because I learned stuff I didn't know about you guys. And Kyle, is there a difference between North Korean and South Korean, or is it all the same language?
All the same language. The North Koreans, though, do prefer the older style of writing. I think it's called Hanja, which incorporates a lot of Chinese characters.
Oh, really? That's
But the main Korean language, though, is actually a phonetic alphabet. It's not pictures. So
Okay.
it's actually quite easy to learn how to read. You can probably do it in a week or two, because each symbol, not symbol, but the lines make a specific sound, and the sound doesn't change. It's almost always consistent.
Oh. Well, there you go, folks. You heard it here. The random fact segment dug out more interesting knowledge from our lovely and wonderful panelists. So with that, that's going to be all we're going to do today. Thanks very much, guys, for watching. We had 50 viewers today in live. If you guys want to join the Hangout Live, you can ask your questions. You can get all the SEO information that you want. If you have any questions or SEO needs after this, by all means, you can email at least myself. I don't know if anyone else wants to volunteer their email address. You can email me at joshbachynski@gmail.com if you need anything or want anything.
Wait. We have to beg for likes and also tell them to join the Facebook group, Josh.
Oh, yes. Join the Facebook group. Well, join our Facebook group. Like this thing. Kiss your mother because it was Mother's Day. Say hello to the secret camera. Dance with a Dinosaur, whatever it is. And we'll see you next time on White Hat versus Black Hat. Thanks very much. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye,
Thank
guys.
you.